Okay, I'm back at it again. Last week's video, I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people about what I'm doing with the tail pan and what their opinion is about this and that. Um, some pretty good suggestions. Some things that might not have been so practical. Some other things that I liked. Anyway, I'll turn you around and well, I'll cut you off here a minute and I'll cut you back on and show you some of the things that I'm considering for back there and also some ideas I had for the shock absorbers that I think is going to solve the situation. Okay, the first one was sent to me was one by Carrie Snyder, which I didn't know this existed, but apparently on the Dodge Challenger you could get a tow hitch receiver that was a vertically mounted piece that would go up and is completely concealed by the bumper. And then it comes with this setup over here. That was something that you could get from the factory from Dodge. Unfortunately, in trying to source this and shop this, I found out this is like three times this receiver alone is like three times as expensive as just a aftermarket tow hitch receiver. And once I got it, I would have to turn around and hack it up to get it to actually work in the back over here, which if I'm going to make something from scratch, I don't want to have to, basically buy something that's that expensive to do something I could probably do myself as far as the receiver is concerned. The big problem, though, was this piece here. I could not seem to locate this. While I found just one of the actually tow hitch receivers, OEM style, for sale, most of the ones that came up were all aftermarket, and they all had the tow hitch receiver facing in the backwards direction, not this vertical direction like this. But this piece here, I couldn't find this piece at all, and this is not something I would make. I'm not set up to bend half-inch thick steel like this and make sure that it's strong enough to do the job. So this is a great idea, but I'm probably going to have to, I'm going to go in another direction there. One of the ideas was to come through the tail pan up higher, in the car, somewhere's up here, and then make a dummy blank to fit into the receiver hole. And that's probably one that was suggested by John McKinney. And the only problem I had with it was we talked about it being flush mounted and, with it just a small reveal around it. Problem with that is if it's flush fit, is trying to get it back out of the hole, because sometimes these things have a tendency to freeze up in the hole. So one of the things that came out of the conversation was the idea of, putting a spring in it so that when you push it in, it's got a little bit of tension on it, so that when you pop the retainer pin here, that it would kind of jump out a little bit so you could grab it and pull it out of the hole. We'll see how that works out. I do have a hitch receiver I bought already that's just this nub here, and I'll see if that's something that's practical. If it's not, then we'll try to think of something else. I don't know what else is there. I mean, you could put it underneath the car, make it removable, similar to this, but for heading in this direction. There's a couple other things that could happen, but we'll see how that goes. The other was the tail pipes. I've set these up. These are pretty big tips, and they look pretty big, a little outsized underneath of the tail pan. So I'm going to go with the idea of cutting them in about halfway, like a half moon across here, and up into the tail pan. That's something I've done before, and I like the look of it. And it looks like it's a little bit more designed to be in the car as opposed to hanging below. Other suggestions were to just come with the pipes and just turn them down and cut them off flush with the bottom of the pan, so sort of like a diesel exhaust. I like that idea to some degree, except for the fact that it doesn't completely exit from the bottom of the car, which I don't like the idea of that too much. I like the fumes to be out and away from the car completely, and so I'll probably just do that, cut these in a half moon. That'll work out good for me, I think. A few people asked me questions about, my 79. This is something I built back in 1993, I think, or 4. Anyway, this was an old, you know, ready for the junkyard piece at the time, 1979 El Camino. This is what I did. It was like a $1,500 renovation. Painted it. And basically, the car had a tired 305 junkyard motor in it that had all. I mean, it was dangerous to drive. I mean, this thing, you know, wouldn't get out of its own way. So I just started throwing weight overboard instead of doing anything to the engine. You know, that had features like this rear glass. This is Lexan in the back. These are Lexan side windows on the passenger side, so this is a really lightweight door here. Just started throwing weight overboard on this car, and some of the big weight was these bumpers and everything, front and rear, with all the pistons and the sub bumpers and everything. That was probably at least a couple £100 worth of weight, and it was just so surprising how just by reducing the weight of the car, how quick it became. I also dropped it 1.5 inches with some drop spindles and some lowering springs in the rear, and I like that look, the way it sits. I didn't realize till I printed this picture out that I had these small tips coming out below this roll pan. You can see this roll pan goes straight across, and I had lowered the license plate to this lower section here, but you can see it's a straight line across here, which enabled me to get this real nice close line. And this panel here is just a rolled piece of aluminum with a 1-inch tubing to keep it straight. I also added a spoiler to give it kind of a stock car look. You can see with the exposed rivets and everything around the window and everything, it kind of had a stock car look to it, and had this anodized aluminum cover, tonneau cover that I made that was just hinged in the middle, and it was just held down with hood pins like this tailgate is held on. So that was another bit of weight that I got rid of. The actual tailgate was pretty heavy, so I got rid of it. It's just this aluminum panel, and this tonneau cover, you know, kept the air flowing over the car instead of parachuting into the back. And I don't know what that did for my gas mileage. Probably nothing, but it was a fun build because it was basically on a no money budget, and the car, you know, could only improve from what it had been, which was a real piece of junk. Anyway, just thought I'd show you that, and now moving on with this one. Okay, I don't know if you can see this real good, but I welded this tab on here. It's a bent over tab with a weld nut on the back side of it, and so this little flange here that's sticking down on the car, I was able to through bolt it here and basically tighten this whole thing up, keep it from wiggling. And so that part of it's out of the way. And then I have to determine this point to that point over there. I got to come up with a cross beam to go across here, and then see if I can't start plotting out where this receiver can go on the back side over here. Unfortunately, I got to cut my rib out. It's right in the center there. We'll see how that all works out. Anyway, just got to do some planning. All right, for the cross member, I've decided to use this piece of 2x4 steel, 64 wall. Anyway, mainly because it's what I've got. In order to figure out where everything goes, I've created this mock-up just out of some aluminum so that I can find out where I need to drill my holes through it to attach it to the bottom side of the car. Also, how far off the back of the tail pan I have to locate everything. This represents the hitch receiver. So very lightweight. So I'm not trying to hold a bunch of heavy parts and pieces up over my head because it's pretty heavy, and so is the hitch receiver. So this will give me an idea where everything goes and how far in or close to the tail pan I can bring this, or if this is even going to work. I haven't been on there yet with it, so we're just making up a lightweight substitute for it and see how it goes. All right, I don't know if you can see what I got going on here, but this is representative of my cross beam, which will be made out of that 2x4 steel. This establishes the bolt hole where it's going to bolt up on either side, and
naturally it's also going to get tied back way back to this point over here, where there's some embedded bolts in the frame rails. At any rate, the main thing I'm trying to determine is where it goes through this roll pan here, and you can see that this is projected. This is actually, the center of this is actually on the flange, not on this upright piece right here. So the center, this is not off center, it's actually on center. And that projects out what my receiver is gonna, basically the area it's gonna go to. So I got a good idea as to where to cut the hole. And I'll start small, and then once I get an opening on that side over there, I'll actually build this piece and bolt the real piece to it to see how much further I have to clearance that hole beyond this 2" by 2" mock-up. Anyway, just thought I'd show you that. All right, from the back side, I determined the bottom of the hitch receiver, and then I dropped it another 1/4 of an inch. Basically, I drilled a hole through where the bottom of the hitch receiver should be, and then I went ahead and widened it out. So this is a total of 2½ inches side to side for hopefully a 2" inside diameter hitch. And so from that point on, I found the center of the roll pan based on the center of the tailgate, transferred the line down there, projected out, so that I have this, and then I went ahead and drilled out with a step bit, so that I have a radius, a nice radius here. Hopefully it'll be the right location and I won't have to dog it out anymore. And then I'll cut down the sides here so that I'll have a nice hole that has, you know, rounded over edges, and we'll see how that works out. Okay, so I'm getting ready to make the real deal now as far as what this represented here, and drill out these holes and the locations where they're going to bolt up to the car. But I've got these long bolts that I'm going to send through, all the way through. But in order to make sure that, because this is hollow, that when I torque them down, that it doesn't crush and then loosen up, and I'm basically drilling out a clearance hole for this piece of tubing, and I'm gonna get it down all the way through to the other side there, and then this I'll weld it around here, and then I'll cut it off flush, and this will act as a sleeve so that when I tighten it to the car, this doesn't crush. So I got to do that first before I do anything else. All right, so it might be a little bit tough to see what I'm doing under here. Can't get back far enough to really get you a good look at it. But basically, here's this 2x4 beam is now bolted up side to side over here to these pieces here that had the floating. There's a large 1/4 inch plates with they're floating for bolting something else up. I don't know what it was, forget. Anyway, I left them on there for this express purpose. So there's a mistake right there. It's these when I put these put in these pieces of 1/2 inch in order to sheathe the bolts over here so that they didn't crush this tubing down. I got them a little too close end to end, so I had to drill another set. And on that side there, I had to put a 3/4 inch tube to give it enough slop so that I could feed these long bolts up in there and have them not cross thread. At any rate, this even though I'd had a mock-up, this ended up being, once everything was squared up, which was difficult to do with the mock-up because it was just flimsy sheet metal, and once I plotted out the proper area for it to go through on the roll pan, so it didn't interfere with, you know, my tie back bracket and everything else. This piece here, this receiver, ended up being about 7/8 of an inch lower than this beam, which is not a problem. I'll gusset this all together and make sure that this is all tied in with 3/16 inch steel. The other thing I have to do is I have to bring some long brackets down for some safety chains, which obviously safety chains are usually right on either side of the receiver, but you don't have the opportunity to do that. And if you did put them up there and something would happen, you'd rip your roll pan off. So it has to be, they have to be down to where they project at least lower than this roll pan here. So that's something that has to be added there. I've got these just gusseted up, these outriggers, and they come all the way out to the frame rails themselves. This one had to be cut at an angle. All this has to get welded up once it's back off the car. And I did the same thing with these, put these half pieces of 1/2 inch tubing all the way from end to end, welded them both ends and ground them off in order so that this would not crush. And these are bolted up. There's two bolt up points in these frames for some reason or other on the Camaro. I don't know what they were for, but they came in handy. There was nothing bolted to them when I got the car. So it's behind the suspension. Here's the the final part of the suspension here. So I don't know what those bolt up points were. There were some on both sides that were staggered. So I put these outriggers on there to help tie that into the actual frame rails of the car. So there you go. So obviously I'm going to have to put the gas tank up and then put this up because the filler neck and everything will be riding through that hole there. And it's a lot easier to just put the whole mess up together than to try to feed the gas fill tube up after the tank is involved, or installed I should say. So now I've got to put a spreader in here, 1-inch spreader in here, just to keep it from distorting. Hopefully it won't distort too much when I weld everything up. That usually is kind of a nightmare, but I have a port of power, so I can spread them back apart if they pull in for some reason or other, because they're pretty long and they're pretty far away from the gussets themselves, so they might have a tendency to pull inside the side. So anyway, that's where I'm at with that. I didn't basically film too much of it while I was doing it because just a lot of cutting and a lot of piecing, a lot of bending, and a lot of nonsense. Boring. Anyway, that's where I'm at with this, so I'm just going to continue on from here. I just wanted to show you how the receiver looks from here. I'll have to widen the hole down just a little bit here from this point down, give it a little bit more clearance. It was kind of hard. This is a 2x2 hole that I cut, 2.5 by 2.5, but this is obviously at a curve and at an angle, so it wants to be a little bit longer in order to project into 2.25 if you're vertical to that face. So I'll have to open this up a little bit so that as you're putting in the actual hitch, it doesn't bang up the roll pan on the edges. Anyway, that's what that's looking like right there. All right, so I've got this trailer hitch receiver out from under the car, and I'm welding it up. As you can see, I had to build this piece to accept the safety chains out of some 3/16 steel, and it hangs below the roll pan so that if the chains ever tighten up for some reason or other under an emergency, it's not going to wreck the roll pan, hopefully. And hopefully it's up under there far enough that it won't be very visible, because the roll pan's way out here. And so yeah, I'm just going along and welding everything up and gusseting everything. Don't want anything to fall apart while I'm pulling a trailer. It's a lot of work for something that I don't think I'll be using maybe but twice a year. But at any rate, that's where it's at right now. Okay, so I'm coming up with a mock-up of my exhaust tips. There's the actual exhaust tip in there. What I've done is I took a pattern off of the shape of the exhaust tip, and then I cut these wooden profiles, about a 1/2 inch thick piece of wood, and I'm going to use them to keep this paper pattern in this same shape here. So what I've done here is basically wrapped it around the existing piece, and I've stapled this top and bottom to the wood, and I'm going to slide it off and maybe tuck that other one in there to keep the shape. This will allow me to get a trim this as it would intercept the roll pan, which is going to be a compound curve. So I have to slowly trim a little bit off at a time to get that. And all that really is going to do, for the most part, is just show me what the actual cutout is on the roll pan and how that's going to look.
So, but I have the ability to, you know, trim it easily with a pair of scissors and slowly slide it in until it fits reasonably well. Anyway, that's what I'm up to right now. Went ahead and primered up the hitch receiver, and that's just drying in the sun there, my outdoor spray booth. And we'll wait for that to dry before we go to finish coat of that Hammerite paint and reinstall it under the car. All right, so you can see what I was up to here, basically. I mean, it's not exactly fitting to the contour, but in this direction, it gives me an outline of what my cutout should look like in that area. So I've just got it on a body stand on a 2x4, so it's sitting flat, running it into the roll pan, making sure that it's kind of center line. You can see it's at an angle here, just to try and make sure that the opening is angled correctly. Of course, that'll be more a function of the pipe itself and not this this cutout. This is what I'm trying to achieve, getting this profile cut into the bottom here, which is about halfway up the pipe, which is, here's the bottom of the pipe, or the roll pan right here. So about midpoint of the pipe right here. And then, of course, I'll expand it, make it about a 1/2 inch larger, so that you know, any movement in the pipe, any shaking and rattling and rolling, it won't hit the tail pan. Anyway, that's what I'm up to. All right, so now that I've cut that out a 1/2 inch bigger than the pattern that I drew on the tail pan, I went ahead and I cut out the steel, but left this piece in. And the reason I want to do that, if I cut this, there might be some tension in the panel that causes to one end or the other to swing out, because there's nothing going to be connecting it from end to end. So before I do that, I want to put a steel ceiling in this shape to stabilize it from side to side. So what I've done here is I've made a paper pattern that it'll give me something to go by for making this filler piece over here. Okay, so we got one side done here. Had to take it off the car, obviously, because upside down and backwards is no way to work. And so got the floor in, got the intermediate piece out once this floor was welded in. Actually, it's a ceiling. I've got it upside down, and we got to match this over on the other side, which off the car will be a lot easier, because I'll just be able to make a pattern of what I got here, reverse the pattern, and measure it off the other side, and just continue on. Anyway, that's where I am with that. All right, so I went ahead and made a paper pattern of the right side of the car and transferred it, flipped it over upside down, lined up the bottom edge here on the side, and traced out my other opening, so I've got a symmetrical setup here. Hopefully that works out real good. Anyway. Okay, so that's what the trailer hitch receiver looks like. A bit elaborate, I guess. I don't know. That's what I think I need to have under there to make sure it doesn't, you know, fall apart and successfully connects to the Camino. Anyway, the tail roll pan is seam sealed and primered, and on the back side, so I'm going to put that back on the car, see how that all looks once I put the trailer receiver under there, and see if that's all still looking pretty good and fits and everything like that. And yeah, so that's where I'm up to right now. Okay, so that's what it's looking like without the roll pan on it, bolted up to the car. There's the tabs for the safety chain. Hopefully, obviously, they'll be a little bit lower than the roll pan, but the roll pan's back far enough, and hopefully the car will be low enough that you won't see those. Anyway, so there it is, bolted up to the frame on that side and on this side over here. I have trouble with this bolt hole here. I had to ream it out just a little bit, but that's about it. I was expecting a whole lot more trouble when you got this many alignment holes that have to go into something you just laid a lot of heat to. So hopefully it'll be good enough. at any rate, that's where we're at. All right, so that's what it looks like with the tow hitch in. I haven't made the blank that will go in, but this is what it looks like from the underside. So I reach my hand in here and pull the pin out, and the clip's on the other side. So that worked out okay. Anyway, and these are just below the level of the roll pan, so that should be okay. If should the chain have, pull tight, I imagine that'll be some damage if there's an actual accident where this thing falls apart, but hopefully that won't happen. So that's where we're at with that. That's where the gas tank is. Anyway, I'll continue on making this blank plug that'll fill in that area when there's no tow hitch, which will be most of the time. All right, so I'm starting to work on building a substitute for when the actual hitch is in the receiver. I'm going to want to make it out of plastic, ABS plastic, so that it's, it doesn't rust up and get jammed in there. So the first thing I'm doing is I've basically cut the sides for the receiver that'll be glued together. So I've got 4 sides here, and then I've got some intermediate pieces that'll be glued in to hold it square. And one of those intermediate pieces, I've taken a spring and taken a washer and screwed it down to the base, and that'll fit somewheres in this region right here, so that the spring sticks out the back. And it's not a very strong spring, but it's a spring nonetheless. Then what'll happen is that hopefully when you pull the pin, this will pop out and allow you to grab it, because I want this to be a flush fit. So I'm going to glue this all up together and see how that all goes. All right, just wanted to show you what this was looking like before I close up the last side. I've got it glued up, these intermediate pieces and spring inside, and then this piece will go on and cap the top off. They're beveled on the edges in order to help it be as tight as possible in that enclosure. Anyway, that's what the blank is looking like right now. All right, so here's that piece all glued up. I sanded the sides down, make it a little slicker. Springs sticking out the back. So now this is my blank as far as what I need to put in here. And so there it is, just sitting loosely, but you can see it can travel a little ways, which is just what I'm looking for, so that it'll pop out once I pull the pin, and it'll be easy to pull out, since the plate that's going to go on here will be flush with the roll pan. So far so good. We'll keep going at it here. All right, so there's the dummy plug, if you will, sitting in there. I've got it pinned in there now, so reach in here and pull the pin out. You can see where it just shuffles out a little bit, which is all you really need, so they'll be able to grab that and take that all the way out. Anyway, that worked out okay. All right, so now that I have it pinned in there, I went ahead and I trimmed it off so that it's flush right now. I have to make this plate here, but then I have to, once I have that plate, I have to take this in and out and sand it until when I apply the plate is flush with the roll pan itself. So I'll take a little bit more material off here, but until I get the plate that fits in here, I won't know what that is. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I forgot to show you how I was going to attach that plate to the end, the steel plate. Basically, I've got a piece of sheet metal that's shaped like a U, and that's flush fit inside there, and it's riveted through the sides. But before I put it in, I had already located this piece, and it was plugged. You can see it's plug welded from the back side, or plug welded to the front side, through a couple of holes I already had drilled in there. So that secures it to the face of the plastic. And so that's what it's looking like. I'll show you what it looks like in the car. Okay, so that's what it looks like plugging up the hole, and hopefully this will pop out. It's the first time I'm trying it right on camera. So there it is, popped out with the spring, so I can just pull it in or out, and there you have it. And that'll push it back in, put the spring back in. Anyway, that's that little operation done. All right, so I just got a temporary hanger on there just to show me what it's going to look like with the exhaust tip cut halfway up into the roll pan. So that's what it's looking like right there, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll go on from here. I won't be able to actually hang it until I get a length of pipe to put onto that tip so that I can put some hangers up there and get it all positioned. Anyway, that's what I'm looking at right there. All right, so I've decided to try and mess with the door handles and the door latches. On the Camaro, it's much different than it is on the El Camino. So I have to first make what I call a relationship pattern. What's the relationship of the latch to the door handle itself? Because there's existing operational hardware, rods, and things that have to connect up, so they have to be relatively close to the distances they exist in this door. Again, I'm using all the latches from the Camaro based on the fact that they're tied into the other electrical systems of the car. So at any rate, what I've done here is I've got a paper pattern that sweeps around here to catch the latch opening, and a couple locations for the bolt up for that latch, and then this piece of metal here gets around to the front side here so that I have a relationship of where the key barrel should go relative to the door handle. I just want to get those things marked out and just kind of eyeball it and see how that's all going to work, or if it's going to work at all on the El Camino door. All right, so on all my other projects, I had the convenience of having a door that I could just butcher up and just take the components out, and you just weld them to the new car. Unfortunately, this is a fiberglass door, so I have to make my own steel parts. So the first thing I'm doing here is trying to make this pocket here for the door handle. So I've been working just the back piece first, and now I'll try and work these sides. They're going to take a little bit more metal shaping to get them to do this little curve in here. So just going to inch worm, make this plate out to about here and here, and that'll basically give me my key lock relationship to the handle. And then I'll cut my holes where the handle goes itself, and then I'll transfer the whole mess over to the other car. Anyway, that's where I'm at with that. All right, it took some time to whittle some pieces in here to complete the enclosure, but that's about what it's looking like right there. Yeah, so at any rate, I'll have to drill a couple holes, drill a square hole, and then put some flanges on the side here, and then another large flange over here to put the keyhole in. Anyway, that's what it's looking like right now. All right, so here's the enclosure, the handle in it, and I've got it bolted in through the back side here. So just testing for clearances to make sure it works, make sure that I got enough room here so I don't have any problems with paint later on. I've got a little clearance issue here. I'll have to deal with that. I can just shuffle that over a little bit to the right over here and get that clear. That's working pretty good. So time to move on with the rest of it. Well, I was wondering how I was going to make this, and just drilling a hole and filing out all this stuff here, and I wouldn't be able to get the recess because that would just be too much. Then I looked over and I realized I was going to have to, if I'm going to move the keyhole in the door in the El Camino, why don't I just cut that piece out? It's the same. It's the same. So I was going to have to fill that in anyway over on the El Camino. So just cut it out of the door,
I'll replace it with a square patch. And there you have it, problem solved. I'll attach this to this piece, and that gives me my keyhole, and I'm good to go. Anyway, it's nice when every once in a while you trip over something like that. I always say it's better to be lucky than good. All right, so that's what the whole assembly looks like to duplicate what's in the Camaro door right there. And so I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I was struggling with the idea of how I was going to do it. I was worried about all these inside curves, which you can see they're a little rough, but that's what they make Bondo for. So anyway, that's what it looks like on its own. It's time to mend it into the door and see what happens next. See if there's any interference with any jazz that's going on inside the El Camino door. That may be an issue. Who knows? All right, so I've got the door handle in place here, and the panels that holds everything is calicoed into place, into position here. And what I've done here is there were some countersunk holes here that attach the El Camino latch mechanism. And you might be wondering why I'd be bothering with trying to put the Camaro latch system in and all that. Well, it's because it's all tied in. As you can see, there's electrical plugs on it. So there's systems that hook to it, and I don't want to be bothered to try and track them down and unhook all the lights that would come on if you didn't have this properly hooked up with the harness. At any rate, it's a more reliable setup anyway than the older latch system. What I've had to do is put the handle in first, and then I hung this latch system by the rods that would attach to both the key and also to the latch mechanism, or the handle, the door handle itself. That way I was able to position this latch mechanism in the door and see where it was relative to this existing opening. Now, the only reason I'm trying to keep that existing opening is because this is pretty much, I'd have to do a lot of modification here if I raise this up, which it's about 7/8 of an inch higher if I did that. So I don't want to do that. I'm going to keep it basically center of the door, which is where this latch is. And I already have a cutout here, so I wouldn't have to patch it all in and recut it out just for 7/8 of an inch. I've gone ahead and sleeved the rods, the connecting rods. I've got 1/4 inch tubing, which is perfect. It's a hydraulic tubing, and I just slid these pieces in, and then I lengthened both of these by 7/8 of an inch. That should drop this whole mechanism down to where it lines up with this opening. I've got this paper pattern also. Once I get it in position inside the door, then I could overlay this pattern on the outside of the door and find out where my new drill holes are to secure this latch mechanism to this door jamb. Anyway, that's what I'm up to right now. All right, I've marked out these holes here, and I've been flattening this out and then cutting this to try and get the latch to fit in there. And I've decided to just go ahead and recreate that section out of the Camaro, and just replace it with this piece of 16 gauge, and then we'll just cut this out, put this in, weld it up, and hopefully everything lines up good. You see, I'm back engineering everything basically. First I hung the handle, then I hung the latch from the rods. Then I found out I had to extend the rods. I did that. I rehung the latch from the rods. It's just hanging loosely in there. And with that in place, I was able to watch this out here to make sure that all the tension was off. Once the tension was off like that, and it's flat against the car, rotate this in and get my latch into position over here against the opening. Once that was there, I used a pattern that had the shape of that catch opening to locate my holes. As you can see, one of the holes is almost completely off the sheet metal. That's another reason why I'm just going ahead and duplicating the actual opening that's on the Camaro door, and I'll replace this whole section with this plate over here, and then
hopefully everything lines up and we're good to go and everything actuates the way it's supposed to. Knock on wood, that'll happen. We shall see. All right, so that's all welded in. I had to move the holes, so I have a little patchwork to do to close the holes back down a little bit to get this thing to flush out to where it needs to go. I've got the rods for this pull. It actuates, so that seems to be fine. Nothing special there. Now I have to push the latch in here, and then I have to take this and convert it over to the Camaro style striker plate, and looks something like this. Not something like that. That's exactly it. This is the style that was on the El Camino. It's the old-fashioned single striker plate. But anyway, so this is all going to be a tricky thing to locate. First, I'll push it into the latch itself, get it completely latched. Then I'll be able to take my measurements off the edge of the door into the edge of the plate, and that'll help me position the plate receiver on this side over here. So that's what I'll be up to next. All right, this is the Camaro door jamb that I saved, and this is what I'm looking to scavenge out of this door jamb. That's this plate here and this little floating piece here that is basically what the door latch attaches to. So I got to cut this whole front plate and this pocket out, and then I've got to install it in the El Camino. Okay, so I cut out this backer plate that was used to hold in the old door striker, and welded in this new plate that has the adjustable plate for the double screws that go with this striker plate here, and I've adjusted it, and so now we have an operational door with the Camaro hardware in it. So now I'll be able to plug the harness into it, and I guess the locks work electronically, and it indicates on the dashboard whether or not the door's ajar. That's what I'm guessing. At any rate, next I'll have to cut this into the door and close up that little hole right there, and then this side will be complete. Okay, so it doesn't look too much different than what came out of it. The only difference is the location of the key, which the key used to be here. This used to be shifted back a little bit, and it was a little short of a handle. So, but it has the same general profile as it did on the El Camino to begin with. So it's not too bizarro. At any rate, this is what it looks like opening and closing. And so we're all set with that, and gonna leave it here for this week. This is the end of the week for me, and time to close this video out. And I'd like to thank everybody for watching and subscribing and all that good stuff. I just want to show you something else here while I'm fading out here. This is the door panel from the Camaro. And it's not exactly the same, but it's proportionally, it's not too bad. It's a little bit shorter than the door on the El Camino, but and I'll probably have to remodel all this to get that to work. But it's encouraging that it's a very close fit as far as the overall size of it. At any rate, like I said, that's where I'm going to end it this week. And again, I thank everybody for watching, and I will see you on the next one.